As we bring in women's golf head coach Lindsey Stucki joining us here inside the Janie's Communication Building on Trailblazer Weekly. Coach, just telling us during the break, you got in just a few hours ago, really, 11 p.m., get back into St. George, and here you are. We appreciate you taking some time out of your busy day to talk with us about this year's team and the success that this team has had so far this year. So thank you so much for stopping by.
Thanks for having me.
We're looking forward to this chat. We've been trying to get you on for a couple of weeks, and this works out well because we can talk about the last few weeks, and we can also talk about this weekend or this coming week when you'll have a home tournament out at Sand Hollow. So let's jump right into it, and let's just talk about these first 2 weeks and just recap the start of the season. I couldn't think of a better way to start than to go over to Pueblo and to get the win there at the RMAC Fall Preview. And as you were telling us during the break, not the actual course you're going to be playing the RMAC Championship on, but still a good opportunity to get out and compete against the members of the conference.
Yeah, we were able to come away with the win against all the members of the conference, so we were pretty pumped.
How big is that to be able to go out and first tournament of the year to kind of already have that measuring stick? Where do we measure up early in the year against everyone else in the conference?
Yeah, I think we really kind of had a target on our back to begin with. We were voted #1 in the coaches poll. And I told the team that, we got to work. We got to show that, this is not a surprise. So it was awesome to see us come ahead. We struggled a little bit the second day. We've never really been in that position where we're leading after round one. And we were able to pull it together and finish pretty strong.
And talk about that finish. For me, it's probably stressful for you because you're out on the course. Drayson and I are just sitting back in our offices and we're watching oh, come on, update those numbers, update those live stats. And it's a 4-stroke lead, then it's a 1-stroke lead, then it's a 3-stroke lead. Talk about maybe that roller coaster of those last few holes and your team holding on to get the win.
Yeah, I try my hardest not to look at that live scoring, to be honest, just because I don't want my mood to really, affect the way they play. But as you saw, it was one shot at the end. Our freshman, Abby Porter, was finishing, and she'd had a great tournament. She ended up struggling a little bit on that last hole, but they finished pretty strong. I was proud of them. The pressure was on. I think some of them knew where they were at because they have access to that scoring as well.
Coach, when you're out there, it's always interesting for me to know, kind of what your role is as the coach there while you're on the course during the actual match. Are you kind of like, I'm going to compare it to the PGA where you have your caddy. Can you do that kind of stuff as far as going player to player? I mean, obviously you're not just following one of your players. You're probably moving around the course and different things like that. Can you kind of go up to a player on maybe a particular shot and say, hey, maybe try this, the wind's coming from here, maybe try to go after it, be aggressive? Is that kind of what you kind of do as you're moving throughout the course on the match day?
Yeah, it really just depends on the player, how much help they want. And we talk about the round after the practice round. We'll say, okay, which holes cause some troubles? What's the game plan for this particular hole? And, I'm just there to motivate them and give them kind of confidence in what their decision making is. So a lot of it, they know what they're doing out there. I'm just there to say, hey, that's the right decision. Let's go with that.
And obviously, like you said, each player is different. Mm-hmm. Do you know, obviously when you're going through, I feel like it would be inappropriate to ask, hey, how you playing? What's your score? Do you know, obviously you said you don't really look at the live stats. Do you kind of know or have a sense of kind of where you're at maybe and say, hey, this is the last day, we're a stroke or two behind 4th or 5th or 6th place or 1st place or whatever. Mm-hmm. Do you kind of say, hey, maybe be a little bit aggressive, go for birdie instead of going for par, play it a little safer? Do you have that kind of knowledge in real time, or is it just kind of let's play the holes and see how we end up?
Yeah, I definitely have a few players that I can say, hey, we need a few coming in, let's go. And then there's some that, I just try and tread lightly and say, okay, you're doing good, keep going, stay steady. We've worked a ton on body language this year too, so I feel like my players, they stay positive. I don't know how they're playing. I can't tell unless I'm looking at the score, which I think is, the mark of a great player. You're not fazed by the last shot. You're staying in that moment.
I need to learn from that in my golf game, because my emotions, Drayson and I have golfed together. My emotions certainly show out there on the course. We're chatting with women's golf head coach Lindsey Stucki, the Trailblazers, fresh off of a win in their first tournament of the season a couple of weeks ago at CSU-Pueblo. And then, Coach, you headed down to Arizona, Western New Mexico, hosting this tournament down in Arizona. I just got back last night and are trying to get back in the swing of things before hosting your own tournament here in a couple of days. Sixth place finish, but a really tough field. I mean, sixth place out of, 18 teams there at the tournament. And, I mean, you've got some of the best from the West region, some of the best from the South Central region. So a very good field. So sixth place, really not bad. Your team played well. You mentioned that the weather had kind of wreaked some havoc on that second day.
Yeah, I mean, near the end, the wind was blowing pretty good. It did kind of cause us some trouble with yardages and stuff, but we were happy with that finish. Didn't quite meet our goal for that top 5. But, overall, I mean, there was the fourth ranked team in the country was there. I mean, it was some solid competition. So overall, a good performance by everyone. And
let's talk about some of the best performers, not just this last week, but that CSU-Pueblo. You've got a good mix of a junior, a senior, and a couple of juniors, but then you've got some sophomores and some freshmen really contributing to this team. Mm-hmm. You had Madison Moss, a sophomore, was your leading scorer, if you will, at CSU-Pueblo, and then Caitlin Diebel, the junior, comes back and is leading the team this last weekend. Talk about this kind of the chemistry and the build of this team of freshmen, sophomores, and how they're all contributing in their own way.
Yeah, I mean, we're a really deep team this year. We had some solid competition. We spend a lot of our practices qualifying for these tournaments, and they just push each other. I mean, it's made them get better. I'm not really sure who's going to qualify each and every week because it's so competitive. And some of them, I mean, Maddie has come back really strong. Caitlin has always been kind of solid for us. And Ashley has really surprised me coming back as a senior. She's had 2 of her, best collegiate rounds in these first 2 tournaments. So that's been really good for us.
Coach, let's talk a little bit about that final day there at the New Mexico event there you had a couple days ago, I guess I should say. Caitlin Diebel started the day tied for 36. She came into play that day tied for 36. She moves all the way up, tied for 7th to finish. She shoots 77 on day 1, 74 on day 2 to finish at a +7 overall and get herself into the top 10. What did you see from day 1 to day 2 with Caitlin Diebel to where she was able to kind of move up the leaderboard at such a high pace?
Yeah, I mean, with that wind, Caitlin's one of the longest hitters out there. She was able to take advantage of that length and really get some birdies on those par 5s where she needed it. I think her 74 was one of the lowest rounds on the day, so I knew she was going to come back strong. 77, she wasn't happy with that the first day, and she made some key putts for us to keep us, in that 6th position. So I was pretty proud of the way she finished. She's a leader for us.
Of course, can't forget to mention Abby Porter, who also moved up. She finished out. She started the day outside the top 10 at tied for 14th, moved up into the top 10, finished at tied for 9th place. She shoots a 74 on day 1 and a 78 on day 2. Talk a little bit about kind of how do you go in and change things day 1 to day 2, saying, hey, this is what we're going to expect, this is what we kind of learned from day 1. How do you make those adjustments just on the fly, or does it kind of let's keep the same mindset, let's keep the same kind of strategy, or do you kind of change the script from day 1 to day 2?
I mean, day 1 for us was a great round. I think we shot 301, which is a pretty good round. Everybody was in the 70s. Even our 5th girl, we had some depth there. We weren't going to struggle if we had to count that score. The course definitely played a lot different. The pins were tucked on day 2, and that wind was blowing. So we had to adjust on the fly for sure. But they did fairly well, so I was pleased.
Chatting with Dixie State women's golf head coach Lindsey Stucki. The Trailblazers 2 tournaments in the books, and now this weekend, Coach, I keep saying this weekend, Monday and Tuesday. We're in the middle of the week. It's Wednesday. Monday and Tuesday this coming week, going to host the tournament, the 6th annual Dixie State Fall Invite at Sand Hollow. It's a tradition that the previous coach set up. You've kept it going. Phenomenal event there. Talk about some of the teams that are coming in and what it all takes to get this tournament up and running and everything it takes to run a tournament. From what I understand, running a tournament is pretty exhausting.
Yeah, I mean, the golf course has been really helpful. The staff there is great. It's a great facility. As you probably know, it's like ranked the top in Utah every year. We've got some really good teams, probably the strongest field we've ever had in the tournament. Cal State San Marcos, Concordia, Simon Fraser in Canada, always really good, probably top 25 teams. Also some good RMAC teams, so that'll give us another shot at those teams.
What do you look at? Does it mindset change at all? And maybe it doesn't, and that's fine if it doesn't. But does the mindset change at all when you're playing, say, here on a home course or on a course here in St. George than when you're heading out onto the road? Obviously, you don't have all the distractions of the road and going out to eat and those things. But what is different playing at home than playing out on the road?
It'll definitely be nice to sleep in our own beds. I think that will be helpful. We're comfortable out at Sand Hollow, so we should be able to post some good scores. We play out there quite often. We practice out there. I think that is a huge advantage to know the golf course, and we know the wind can blow out there sometimes, and we're prepared.
It's hurricane. The wind's always blowing. From what I'm told, there's a few communities around here. Hurricane's one of those. Yeah. Hurricane, right?
Yes.
Wind's
hurricane. Yeah.
But Sand Hollow, a terrific golf course. I mean,
absolutely.
It's my favorite golf course that I've ever played. Of course, I've not played as many courses as probably you or any of your players have, but it's certainly one of my favorite courses here in Utah. Coach, we mentioned it briefly earlier. Picked to win the RMAC, first place in the preseason poll. Does that, you mentioned you kind of put the target on your back. Does that kind of, when that comes out, does that change your mindset of like, I mean, before obviously you knew you had some good players and you were going to have a good team this season. Does that kind of either validate the hard work you've put in over the previous couple seasons? Does it add extra pressure? How does that affect the team dynamic going into this season?
I think it definitely validates, what I've known for a long time. We have a ton of talent, but there's a lot of talented girls out there. It's just about who can work hard and put in the work. Obviously, I mean, I say, I can lead them to the ladder, but I can't push them up the rungs. And this team is, one that cares about winning just as much as I do. They care about getting better. They support one another. And I think, we have a great chance to win the RMAC, and that's our goal.
Certainly a team, from what I've gathered from you, that wants to see one another succeed. I mean, Caitlin Diebel has finished in the top 12 at least, top 7 last week, and then a couple weeks ago, top 12 finish or higher. She's probably been your leader, but obviously you've got Madison Moss, who finished in the top 3 a couple weeks ago. She's certainly capable of doing that. Do you have a lot of kind of leaders on that team to where they don't really care if they're first or if they're fifth? They just want to have the best team put forward and have each individual play their best. I'm assuming that's kind of the dynamic.
Yeah, I think all of them are that way, and freshman Abby Porter has really stepped in and helped us, and she's really one that brings the team together as well. So it's a good dynamic. I think it's probably the most supportive team that I've ever had and really cares about one another's success.
How do you help influence that dynamic? Obviously, there's some nuances as being a golf coach versus, a football coach or a basketball coach, where it really is like you go out there and you perform as a team, you do everything as a team. Golf, you score as a team, you win conference championships as a team, but there's also that individual aspect where you could be the medalist at a tournament. Maybe your team didn't win or didn't finish in the top 5. How do you help that dynamic in terms of helping your players see that vision of, yes, your individual scores are important, but really it's means to an end of the team finish?
Yeah, I think for a lot of these girls, it's been they were the star on their high school team. So coming in, it is sometimes difficult to say, wow, okay, there's a lot of good players here. I'm no longer top dog, so to speak. But it has really happened organically. I think, I show them that I care, and that's really pushed them to work harder for me. They're just a really good group.
Absolutely. Coach, we appreciate you stopping by the studio today and hanging out with us. We wish you all the best. Our time has run out in this segment, but fantastic team. Awesome to see you win that first tournament and to be really competitive in that second tournament. And hopefully can pop out there and watch some golf. If you want to go watch some great college golf on Monday and Tuesday at San Hollow, it'll be there all day long. So head out there to San Hollow and check out the 6th annual Dixie State Fall Invite.
And we need to see if we can plan something to do with the women's golf team. Last year we had that putt off there. We went to
with the
men's golf team.
We
need to get out to the women's golf team. Yeah. Maybe see if we can, Carrick and I can put up our best putting competition with some of your top girls there.
Don't worry, you don't have anything to fear, Coach. We're not any good. Although we had a couple of those men's players on the ropes in that putting competition, and then we fell apart at the end. But
we look forward.
And by the way, that's the only thing that we could ever have a chance of beating them at is putting, because anything off the tee or any sort of real golf event, we would just be completely lost. So.
Absolutely. Head coach Lindsey Stucki, thank you so much